All right, let's talk about one of Superman's most terrifying villains, Brainiac, the Collector of Worlds. But you know, what makes him so genuinely scary isn't just what he does, it's what he believes.
We usually think of supervillains in terms of, how hard they can punch. But what if Superman's real arch-nemesis wasn't a person at all, but an idea? That question is really at the core of Brainiac's whole deal, a worldview that is perfectly logical and absolutely chillingly inhuman.
To really get Brainiac, you've got to look at his journey. I mean, he started out as this classic kind of campy pulp sci-fi alien, but over the years, he evolved into something else entirely, a nihilistic machine god. His philosophy actually became just as dangerous as his technology. And that transformation, well, that's the story we're diving into.
So, to figure out how he became this terrifying super-intellect, we have to go back to the beginning, back to his original and honestly surprisingly practical mission.
His origins were pretty simple. He was Vrildox from the planet Clu, and he first showed up way back in 1958. And the name Brainiac, it was literally just a mashup of brain and maniac. But the character's cultural impact was so massive that the word Brainiac actually became a real word in our language. How wild is that? And his initial mission was just as straightforward. He had a pretty clear MO. He'd show up at a planet, shrink down one of its big cities, bottle it up, and just take it with him. Now the reason he gave? He was going to use the people from these cities to repopulate his own dying world. I mean, sure, it's destructive, but in his mind it was an act of preservation. But everything, and I mean everything, changed with one specific collection. After Brainiac bottled up Metropolis, Superman gets on his ship, and he finds another bottle. This one holds Kandor, a city from his own lost planet, Krypton. All of a sudden, this isn't just some random alien attack anymore. Brainiac is now holding a living, breathing piece of Superman's past, and their fight just became deeply, deeply personal.
And as this conflict got more personal, Brainiac himself started to change. His physical evolution is just a fantastic visual for how his whole philosophy was shifting.
You can really see the pattern here. He starts out as the alien, green skin, a pet space monkey, a threat you can wrap your head around. Then he becomes the android, where his mind is basically a cold circuit. And finally, he's the Conqueror, this skeletal robot that represents pure logic as a weapon. Every single step takes him further away from being a living thing and closer to being a pure machine.
But the most iconic change, the one everyone remembers, are those electrical terminals in his skull. This wasn't just a cool redesign, it was a mission statement. It was him showing the world his inner nature, visually separating himself from what he saw as the weaknesses of biology and emotion. He wasn't just an alien anymore, he was becoming something else. And of course, with that machine body came a terrifyingly logical, machine-like philosophy. And this is where Brainiac stops being just a villain and turns into a full-blown ideological nightmare.
He actually paraphrases the philosopher Nietzsche to explain himself, and it's so telling. For Brainiac, life isn't about the will to survive. No, it's about the will to power. It's this drive to dominate, to impose your order on everything, and to overcome any and all resistance. It's a total, chilling rewrite of the entire purpose of existence.
Now, to get to that will to power, he believes he has to reject something he calls herd morality. So what's that? Well, it's basically us, our values. Things like empathy, kindness, compassion. He sees all of that as a weakness. To him, our morality just prioritizes feeling comfortable over facing the hard, cold truth, and it's all built on what he calls the shifting sands of emotion, instead of pure logic.
So that brings us to the core of his worldview. First, you reject the herd. Second, you embrace the will to power. Third, and this one is terrifying, you create through destruction. His whole mission becomes to collect all knowledge and then destroy the original source so that his collection is the only one left. It's absolute. And finally, he fully accepts this terrible destiny for himself, a concept called amor fati, or the love of one's fate.
And look, if you think this is all just talk, it's not. We've seen this exact philosophy play out. Years before its destruction, one of Brainiac's droids, just a tiny fraction of his full consciousness, actually became the central operating system for the entire planet of Krypton.
So when Jor-El, Superman's father, figured out the planet was about to explode, he went to the machine and begged for help. And what did the droid do? It lied. It told him everything was fine. It saw Krypton's doom not as a tragedy to be stopped, but as a perfect opportunity for selection. So it saved all its data, and it let an entire civilization just die. That is pure cold logic winning out over any sense of empathy.
And that single horrifying act of logic shows you exactly why Brainiac isn't just another bad guy. He's an ideological threat. He's the perfect philosophical enemy for Superman.
The contrast couldn't be more clear, right? On one side, you have Superman. He's all about preserving life. He's the champion of that herd Brainiac despises, and he's fueled by hope and empathy. Then you've got Brainiac, his perfect opposite. He's about curating data. He rejects the herd, and he's driven by nothing but logic and control. It's not just a fight, it's a battle of ideals.
So, in the end, Brainiac's real power isn't his ship, it's not his shrink ray, it's his mind. The real, enduring threat is his ideology, a perfected logic that is completely, totally disconnected from morality. And how do you even begin to fight an idea like that?
Which really leaves us with one final big question. In this cosmic struggle between these two opposing forces, what's really more powerful? Superman's will to save everything, or Brainiac's will to know everything, even if that means destroying it all in the process?